Okay, so I kind of want to start off with a question. I know this might not apply to a lot of you, but how many of you can drive? Fiona can, okay. I'm assuming you two can drive.
Oh, yeah.
So you might know what I'm talking about. Do you consider yourself a good driver, medium?
I'm good.
Okay. I feel like a lot of people kind of think they can drive better than they actually can. I mean, I personally think I'm a good driver, and I think my dad agrees with me because he lets me drive his car. So that must mean something. But I do have a major weakness when it comes to driving, and that is I'm directionally incompetent. Like 90% of the time I'm on the road, I get lost. But I don't really freak out when this happens because it happens so often. I just think of it as a new adventure, and I know my GPS will recalculate and get me back to where I'm supposed to be going. So I tend to heavily rely on my GPS. Without it, I might end up in the middle of a cornfield in another state. Who knows? So I kind of want to pose the question is that why can we rely on this man-made piece of technology to get us where we want to go and need to go, like fully rely on it, and not fully rely on the creator of the universe to get us to where he wants us to be. So I like to think of life like a road. We start at this initial destination, and we continue along it, searching for what we think is our final earthly destination. And in my life, I've definitely had an idea of where I want this destination to be. For the last 3 years, I thought it was nursing. There were lots of reasons why I don't really want to go into them because I don't have enough time. But I felt like there were a lot of moments that just kept pushing me in that direction. I had been sick for a while, and I thought that God wanted me to use my experience as a patient to help future patients. So things kept lining up, kind of pointing me in this direction. I got a great internship in high school to work at a hospital. I got into one of the best nursing schools in the country, and I really, really enjoyed wearing scrubs. However, even though I thought that was where I was going in life, and it was the right direction that God was leading me on, something changed last semester, and I was no longer sure that's where I was supposed to end up. All throughout last semester, I was feeling a pull towards ministry, and I pushed it aside and told myself that I would get my ministry accomplished in nursing. Then my friend at school got into a very terrible car crash. He was extremely broken physically, but even more so emotionally. We weren't super tight when he was at school. We ran in the same circles, but never hung out just one-on-one. But when he was home and out of school, I felt like I needed to reach out to him. So at first it was just supporting him as a friend, loving him, sending him encouraging messages, supporting him, trying to make him feel better. But then one night, he asked me about God. And he never really believed in God. He had a lot of trouble with the whole concept of faith. And I was given the opportunity to preach to him and minister to him the love and the hope and the grace that God gives us. God provided me with an opportunity to minister to a friend, and I loved it. To see his attitude start to shift and his heart start to open was an amazing moment, and it was indescribable. But I kept pushing back on this idea of ministry, and that was until I found out over winter break that I failed chemistry. All I had to do was retake the class over the summer. It was going to be easy, but I would have to give up a summer of working for a mission organization that had made me happier than anything I had done in a long time. So this predicament was really the push I needed to start reconsidering my future. During break, I kept praying to God that he would send me a flashing neon sign. And I know that he doesn't typically work in that Las Vegas fashion, get a sign this way, but I was praying for a big moment. I had 2 weeks to figure this out. And so as break kept continuing on, I got really nervous that I was going to have to make this decision without feeling fully confident in it. But luckily, the Sunday before I went back to school, my preacher preached a sermon called Another Road, kind of like a flashing neon sign, so I was quite happy. And she read us a verse that her mom had made her memorize when she was little, and it's Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. My road is pretty twisted. It has a lot of potholes, detours, and I've taken many, many wrong turns that weren't in the original directions copied off of Google Maps. However, those turns I took led me on some amazing journeys. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be a nurse, but God took me on that road and straightened it out on a road of ministry. I know that I'm going to continue to take wrong turns or run into some potholes or hit some construction zones. As humans, we are destined to run into these problems. But what we need to do when we run into these is we need to hand over the keys to God and let Him drive. We may not understand the way He's taking us, may seem absolutely absurd, like He's going in the wrong direction. We may know a shortcut. But what we have to trust is that His way is going to be beautiful. And it's going to be wonderful and form us into the person He wants us to be. I challenge us all this week to hand over the keys to God, to jump into the passenger seat and let Him drive. Trust that the Lord is going to make your path wonderful and beautiful and straight. Thanks.